How did you agree?
I did the same one.
So seeing that it's 6:02, we'll go ahead and get started for the night. I call this meeting to order. We're going to start with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Tim Josephson should be joining us a bit later. He is an, what is that called? Election observer?
He's a
Ballot watcher? What are those?
He's a ballot observer, ballot
Minder. Ballot minder.
No, I don't know, I made that up.
Anyway, he's in Canaan because it's election night, so.
Brewster did call in, he is not feeling well and will not be able to attend.
All right. The first thing we can do is I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the public and non-public minutes of October 25th.
I'll make a motion for approval of the non-public and public minutes of October 25th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, did anyone have any edits or anything that needed to be updated?
There was a typo I saw. Line 39 on the first page. I think it should be Daniel would not be at the meeting last week. I think that was the intent here. Not me, but B.
Yes, I had definitely told Tim that I was not going to be at the last meeting.
And do we need to clarify what meeting he's referring to there?
Yeah, it probably would have been the meeting on the 11th, right? So that's the one that I was asking for.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
It wasn't very clear, but definitely it is a typo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's all I saw.
Anyone else have anything? I didn't have any other notes. All in favor of approval of the minutes, public and non-public, of October 25th, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstains? And it passes. For public comment, do we have any public comment tonight? Okay. All right. We'll move into continuing business. And we've got Sophia here for our student representative report to kick things off.
Not a lot going on this week. Obviously the boys soccer championship, that's huge. People were really fired up about that. I'm sure you all saw the escort home, that was super exciting. We really enjoyed that. And then basketball season starting up, people are very excited about that. Not much else going on right now. Student council's taking a trip tomorrow to Waterville for like a student council conference tomorrow and Thursday, so that should be really fun. They haven't done it the last few years due to COVID, but some of the advisors say that it's a really like educational trip that people usually enjoy. So I'm excited to be going on that. That's about it.
Thank you. All right, Educational Issues Committee meeting of October 20th. Is that something that you can give us an update?
I've got a few things to share.
Okay, excellent.
I think you all have a copy of the draft in your packets. I think one thing I had to add is about the free and reduced lunches. We discussed about sharing the information with the voters at the deliberative session and sharing emails with the towns and helping to educate the public about it's more than just free and reduced meals that these numbers provide for the school. in other ways, so we're hoping to get that going. And I think we discussed, discussing about the housing shortage in the Upper Valley, and particularly in our district, and how it has a direct impact on our student enrollment, and also with our hiring for the district. And that's about all I have to add for that meeting.
Does anyone have any questions for Kathleen about that? Okay, I saw that the next meeting agenda was gonna include some strategic plan work. We'd also talked about, at communications, talking about strategic plan and next steps. So if Mark Dolan is gonna go to that meeting, should we?
Mark Dolan is unavailable until around January.
Okay.
Yeah, he's busy with 2 other districts right now,
Okay.
so I'll touch base with him in January and start to set some things up.
Okay, great. Just to make sure that we're in line with all the, getting the band back together,
That's
looking at that and filling gaps as needed in the different stakeholder groups that we've been involved with, so that'd be great. Okay. There's no questions, I guess we can move on to Budget Committee. Hope, can you give us a?
Yeah, I can start with you. I'm getting a little confused because last night there was one meeting and then.
I know.
So, I'm like, okay. So this October 24th was for the IRS budget and the Mascoma Valley High School budget. And it was a pretty lengthy meeting. There was a lot discussed, lots of questions from a lot of especially a couple of new budget members. I didn't highlight this. As usual, we go line by line, there was talk of, the energy costs going up, the fact that we were, having to put some, we talked a lot about the boilers, and which we should. People asked about, basically a lot of questions about, let's see, the golf cart. We've talked about the resource officer a little bit. I mean, pretty much hit it all. The upshot of it is, and I don't see that somewhere, where we were talking about the percentage of budget, was this particular budget, IRS budget, was not going up by much, was it? It was in the low, I didn't write it down.
Yeah, just 1% or 2.
Right. And we spent a little less time on the high school budget, and there wasn't anything there. There was some talk about the athletic trainer, which seems to be kind of a perennial issue that's brought up at the meetings. We talked, there was a little bit of I'm just trying to see what the highlights are, you guys, sorry. It really is kind of line by line, so there were some wish items that did not get necessarily approved, or they're going to be brought back to the work program at the last meeting, and they're going to look into that a little bit more. But that was it. Sorry, I didn't highlight.
It was a long meeting.
It was, yeah.
It was.
I didn't go through. I usually highlight it for you.
Yeah, no, I think you did a fine job.
Yeah.
Any questions about that particular budget meeting for Hope, or anything to bring back? We've now, as I mentioned, the meeting last night was finished up, right?
That was the final presentation
the
of budgets.
presentations, yeah. So the next meeting will be the work session.
Right.
So that's where there'll be some interesting conversations about what stays and from the presentations and what may be modified. So we'll look for that. And I forget, that is also one that we can attend, correct? Or is it just budget committee? I mean, I know it's the budget committee's meeting, and they're the ones that vote on what stays in and out of that official budget.
And I hadn't realized, but in previous years, the superintendent and business administrator had left the room, but were therefore available for commentary. The past few years, I had stayed in the meeting, so this year I will be leaving to allow the budget committee to have a robust discussion should they choose.
Okay.
But we will be in the, in the area in case they have any questions. So.
Okay.
Do they expect the board member, the
I
representative?
think they expect you there, Hope. I'm
Yes,
not
'cause
sure.
you're part of the budget committee, and,
Right.
you have the vote.
Yeah.
But not necessarily everybody else, or?
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I usually don't.
I had realized that they didn't really want the superintendent there. I just assume I want it everywhere. So Sophia thinks that's funny. Thank you. So this year, Rob and I will be just outside,
Okay.
so they can ask
All right.
questions if they need us.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. So I will not, don't worry about that.
There you go.
I'm not going to, I will not be there. I'll let Hope go down the board. Okay, nothing else about budget. We'll move on to finance and facilities. Kathleen, it looks like you might be on the hook for that one too, with Brewster being ill tonight.
Well, that's
And
odd
to do
because
that.
I'm the alternate and
I don't mind.
okay, you
Yeah,
know.
All right,
yeah,
okay.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Good, thanks, Hope.
Yeah, I did highlight this one. So,
Okay, good.
she's ready for
Yeah,
that.
excellent. So, let's see, we met on November 2nd, and we, Rob talked about the CIP. There really aren't any changes in CIP audit basically who's finalizing the budgets for the last meeting. He said that we're going to be looking at increasing stipend hourly rates for student workers, and we, at that point, submitted a package from consideration of nurse pay, which is in this package. Yeah. So we talked about that, which we will talk about tonight. Corrado basically is continuing to do the budget work. There was discussing of oil prices and how that we, they're basically monitoring the prices and because we're going to be buying kind of on the spot market this year for the oil burner. So, and we were trying to figure out if we had enough to make it through the winter. But it looks like we should be good, especially if the weather holds up as it has been. We discussed the solar energy, and I said I would send information to everybody, and I did. I was hoping maybe next week I could get some information to put to everybody in the packet. So hopefully we'll hear back from and get that organized as far as having a meeting.
Great.
Let's see. Really just basically went through the usual cafe services, transportation. We've talked about, that this we will be probably going out to contract, and Kathleen asked about documentation of shortages, and we asked about we were potentially having a work session in December to determine our needs and expectations of the, what we're going into the next contract for. The driver's education, we're looking at increasing the rate. Or potentially offering half an academic credit for driver's ed. And the difficulty of finding teachers right now at this point for driver's ed. So that was about it. Next meeting is December 7th. And I honestly don't know what's on the agenda, so, sorry.
That's it. Any questions for Hope? Two things that I wanted to check in about. First is that at last night's budget meeting, there was a question about whether or not there was any long-range planning around the SAU building And just, I think finance and facility makes the most sense for that to be, if it's gonna be discussed anywhere that makes sense, that would be there, either as part of the CIP or just kind of longer range planning. So just to keep that on the radar for future potential agenda items. And then I wondered, while Sophia is still here, if she had any feedback related to driver's education and kind of the availability. I think you probably just went through. Oh, right now, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it's been difficult for students to kind of get into? Is there anything that we should keep in mind when we're thinking about?
I think so. I think so. The way I like perceive it is it goes from oldest. So like even if you kind of miss your shot, like if you're a senior and go into the class that a sophomore could also be applying to, as a senior you get it, which I don't always think is necessarily fair because they miss their chance. But I think I was supposed to be pushed back until maybe the winter class or the class after that, but there happened to be an open spot, and I had talked to Ms. Davis extensively about being, so she offered me the open spot. But I know a lot of people that have gotten pushed back and just repeatedly. But so I think it's definitely a hard program to get into, but most other programs around, like you said, are a lot more expensive. So I mean, I think that raising the cost is kind of hard to get around, but most other places are a lot more expensive, so people do wait for it. But I don't think that the system is necessarily fair.
Sure.
Myself.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot. It's always good if we can get your student voice included in the conversations. I want to make sure that because that's probably the thing on this particular committee meeting agenda or notes that is of interest to our students. So thank you. Anyone else with questions or comments about finance and facility? All right, so next up is superintendent's report.
So you have my written report somewhere. It was in the electronic packet. I did pass out copies before. So I did spend some time reflecting after attending the Blue Ribbon Celebration in Washington, D.C. I did really spend some time reflecting on really all of the accomplishments that seem to have hit this school district in the last few weeks, especially, right? Culmination of a lot of hard work. So I just jotted those down, and I started with our drama club, or the drama program here, and the presentation of Clue. And then I went on to think about our cross-country teams, and I note Gunnar Courier, who is just being an incredible runner for us. I think at the D3 state meet, he came in 10th, I think, overall. So quite well, running quite well. And then I think, we have put up a good representation at the Meet of Champions. So once again, for a school that has no track, even though this is cross-country, we do have a cross-country course, doing quite well there. The field hockey team was not expected to advance or even maybe make playoffs. They did a great job. They advanced into the second round of the playoffs. Not an easy thing to do, so well done by those players. And of course the boys soccer team really worked hard to get to where they were. Another sort of underdog type of story there, and they did very well. High school aside, we had our IRS boys cross country team win the D3 state championship as a team. Very good. And of course we had EVS as the Blue Ribbon School from the U.S. Department of Education. So a lot to really appreciate and be thankful for here in Mascoma as we move into that season of the year. And that's not to say that we don't have other clubs, organizations, teams, schools that may not have reached an award type level but are still working really hard. They represent us well. I can say that having been at the championship soccer game, I was extremely pleased with the performance of our spectators and students, especially compared to the other schools that were there and the behavior I saw from them. So very, very proud of us all around. And as the community should be very, very proud of what we are accomplishing here as a district.
You have a prop?
I have a prop. Anyone would like to take a selfie with the
I
plaque?
haven't even seen it yet, so
Here it is.
thanks. Yeah.
I'll let Sophia hold it. We have one. Yeah.
There you go, nice.
Very nice.
Excellent. Any questions or comments for Amanda? Okay. Well, congratulations to everyone for their hard work and for all these accomplishments and more. It's great to see them put down on one sheet, and I know that that's just the beginning of what's to come for this year. Okay. Rob, Business Administrator report.
Good evening, everyone. A few things from the business administrator. First, I want to go back to last board meeting where there was the request for the DOE 25 that was not omitted, that was omitted from the packet after it was completed. So I've instructed Martha to download it into the September 27th packet, which is the meeting that it was on the agenda for. So if anybody wants to review the DOE 25 or the MS 25 financial reports, that's where they are. Or if you'd like a hard copy, I can certainly get one to you, or email a PDF if you like. Moving on, as previously mentioned, and it's going to be in your new business discussions regarding the substitute nurse pay rate. We had some supporting documentation of area school districts and what they do for a rate for their substitute nurses, and much like any other position that we have, or actually a lot of other industries in general, competitive pay and compensation is important to recruiting viable candidates and people to come and be attracted to work in the district. So that'll be in your new business, and we can discuss that at length when the time comes. We also have a couple more donations with a very generous community here. $4,999 for the playground climbing equipment installation at Canaan Elementary School, as well as a $1,000 Mascoma Savings Bank donation for the Washington, D.C. music trip, and those will be for your approval of the new business as well. And that's it for me.
Any questions for Rob? Okay. Looks like we can move forward with our quarterly reports. I want to say maybe we should start with EVS because we had coming off the big trip to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it was great. We had a really good time. I did a report that you guys should all have. We were delighted to be part of the Blue Ribbon ceremony in DC. We had a little bit of time to see the city a little bit as well. It was great to be in a room with people that were suffering some of the same challenges that I was suffering, but also with some great ideas from lots of places. So it was really enjoyable. I do want to mention the fire prevention poster contest that we did. We took, having not done it in a while at EVS, we decided, Phil Neely and I decided to take the kind of month of October to celebrate instead of just the 1 week. He and Roy Holland and the town manager came in and they selected the winners without knowing who the names are on the posters. And I was able to call families, and they met at the park on 4A, I'm not sure what it's called, the soccer field. And in the morning, the families drove their children there, and then they rode the fire trucks, and we had them come out onto they got delivered to school on fire trucks with lights and sirens. And the fire trucks drove into the playground, and we all came and saluted them and cheered them on, and they joined us with our pledge and our mindful minute for the morning, which was a great success. I think people really enjoyed that. So we were pretty excited to participate in that. The preschool playground has been a huge success. Kids love it. Our kindergartners are able to use it as well as the preschoolers. And that's been a great success as well. Our Cliff Grant has been wonderful. We've had a couple of really great events. Kids really like taking books home, so that's been really fun. And then on Halloween, instead of celebrating Halloween specifically, we decided as a school to walk to the community building. The recreation director read the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, to the entire school. We had the police officers escort us down, so we had traffic control, and every student and teacher went down and listened to the story, and then we all came back together. So it's been a really great start to the year.
Nice.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions for Jamie?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, thanks.
Done.
All right. Thea, about our CES report. See some great photos again in the.
Yeah, that's always the best
Set the
part.
bar so high.
I like the photos, it's less text. Yeah, so I would say just a couple things. I feel like I always give you the quarterly reports and I'm always saying everything is running smoothly, but I wanted to be fully transparent. I have to say the beginning of the year, you may have noticed the heads. This one says the school year is basically now running smoothly. I think at the beginning of the year, it felt like things were smooth from 8 to 3 because I was lucky enough to be fully staffed, but all the surrounding support areas that either are short-staffed and or have had turnover certainly caused it to be what I thought was certainly the hardest year to start school. We had between the busing issues, the turnover and the busing staff, so we had a lot of coordination problems, some turnover at the SAU. You know, we have everything from, supply chain issues to food trucks going on strike to cafe services not staffing. So it sort of felt like there was just a lot of surrounding trouble, or at least a harder start to the year. All of which seemed to have worked out. So at the moment, it is running much more like it has in years past. It seems much smoother. Enrollment is staying about the same. So I would say, so separate than that, the issues we dealt with at the beginning of the year, things have been, we've had a lot of really good stuff happening. It's fascinating sort of how similar they are, because we're both doing the Cliff Grant, and it has been just completely joyful. Like, we have had an author here for 6 days. Tomorrow will be the last day she's here, and every day is just, the kids are excited. Everyone who's come from Cliff, I don't know if you had the same experience, has been absolutely amazing. Great with the kids sometimes. I mean, they do classroom management while they're teaching 100 kids. They're doing a presentation, and they're just phenomenal. So that's been really exciting. We finally got our new playground structure donated and installed, and the list of people to thank I put in here, it is just incredibly long. It was so heartwarming. We had people come and volunteer, I don't know how many hours worth of installation work and food for the crews, and in the middle of it all is when we had the flood, which I also mentioned as one of our challenges. It turned out that there was not that much damage, but it looked, I guess you weren't there the first day, but it looked really bad when it happened. We showed up to help with the climber installation, and there was water pouring out the doors of the school. So not what you want to be greeted with on your vacation day. But it turned out to be okay in the end. I would say our community members they all seem to be sort of just incredibly anxious to get back in the school. At our open house, we had 180 families show up. It was fun. I'm glad we spread it out because we had a feeling people were quite anxious, but it was wonderful to have everybody back. We also added what we called a glow dance party for the first time. Tammy Daly sort of did all the organization for that, and we had about half the school show up. And it was just really fun. We didn't do much other than turn the lights down, give them glow sticks, and let them dance around and eat food, but it was really good. And I would say those are probably the biggest things on my report, unless you have any questions.
Thanks, Leah. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
All right.
All right, sounds like
Hand it off to the next person.
Thanks, Leah.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, want to go next?
Yes. I want to thank Superintendent Isabel for taking my news about the cross-country, winning the state. That was going to be my surprise in the report. Thank you for ruining that, Miss Isabel.
That's why you go first.
It's hard. It's hard to do this job. But the soccer team played at Cardigan this past weekend in the Cardigan Jamboree for soccer. We placed third, but we won the sportsmanship award. So thank you for not sharing that, Miss
Sure.
Isabel. It's nice to get one in there.
Something for you.
Thank you. So that's a little bit. We had 117 kids. This isn't in the report. This is that came out after. 117 kids play a fall sport. That's not including who was in drama. There's another cast in the drama. So that's 1/3 of the school involved in athletics, just athletics. Again, the drama is a separate thing, which would be more than 1/3. So we do have quite a few kids active. I want to acknowledge, basically our school's blessed. I went to the UDL training down in Concord and heard all the other principals say, I don't have this teacher, I don't have that teacher, I don't have this teacher, I don't have that teacher, and I don't have any subs. And all I can say is, I don't have any subs. I have all my teacher positions filled. So we still attract teachers, we still fill those spots where even other schools are having difficulties. So I wanted to acknowledge that. It's because of the great people they're coming to work with. Not saying that about me. We did Universal Design for Learning training on one early release day. That's still an ongoing initiative. It will be part of NELMS. We do have Bill Downey from NELMS visiting us next week. We will be handing him the application to again up our improvement plan to be a spotlight school from NELMS. They will come back, they'll give us a survey to go out in December. They will come back in March, very much like a NEASC visit, and spend time with staff, students, parents, and then take our existing improvement plan and update it. So hopefully some of the things will come off and new initiatives will go on to, within 3 years, be a spotlight school. Our challenges are running day to day. If anyone's out sick, there are no subs, or there are very few subs. I'm fighting with Tina for subs that she's getting before I get there, so it's ongoing.
Oh no, Buckwald's pretty sick. She's on the phone. She's on the phone before testing.
Because I told her 4 o'clock back home. So, because I knew you were at 5.
4:45.
And that's my report. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, Tina.
First, I want to acknowledge Sophia. So, yeah, she really does represent the students. Yesterday, she stopped me in the hallway with some concerns she had, and she didn't know if she should bring it to the board. I said, come to me first. We'll chat about it. But really, she has been the voice of students. Students are approaching her about areas, things they have concerns with. So really, I applaud her. She was here this afternoon late. She really does go over and above to be here, be a representative for students, and she does a fabulous job. I really appreciate her. Amanda did steal my thunder. We've had some pretty amazing things happening. She did, Sophia forgot to share that we had a pep rally, last week. Our pep band played. All of our students were there. We recognized all kinds of achievements. Our math team won. They haven't won in a while. They won. There were so many things to celebrate. Cast and crew of Clue, the number of teams. So we had a really nice pep rally, and it was so fun. And it was great to have all the students together. They haven't been able to do that in a while. Behavior was awesome. Students at both the semifinal game and the finals, they came with their A game, and we had one slip, but that's okay. We fixed it. They were awesome, and they were cheering on their team, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. The fan bus was so successful. Thank you to the boosters who not only just got our kids down there, but they paid for them to get in. So our students that rode the fan bus didn't have to pay to get in the game. And that's really just awesome. That was able to give the opportunity for some kids that maybe weren't able to go to the game. And I have tutus in my office and beads I picked up after that we'll save for basketball season. But that's just really goes to the students. They patrolled each other. They checked in with each other to meet those expectations of that evening. So, Back to business. Sorry, I'm gloating. It was just awesome. Our student census is about the same. We did lose a teacher. Thanks, Mr. Toll. No, I'm just kidding. Homecoming, another absolutely awesome event that happened in the quarter. Friday night's event was so great with, the fire and the food and Saturday, we were here all day and so many community members in and out all day. I really need to thank Kanan, EMS, police, everybody that's really contributed to all the events, the escort this weekend with Enfields. I mean, our service organizations really step up and support us. The day of homecoming was rather busy for EMS. We kept them busy that day. Everybody's fine though. Everybody's okay. The dance was very well attended. Couldn't have asked. I mean, that was a great event. It was decorated beautifully. Everything was awesome. National Honor Society induction ceremony was also just a really great event. So many applicants, clearly meeting the criteria, but 11 new students were inducted. Clue. Drama is always fun, but it reaches another set of students in our building, and the participation was great. I think there was 256 tickets, I think Mr. Sweetland said, sold, which was just another great event. 126 athletes for fall athletics. But I really think that the students are so connected in this building. They may not play a fall sport, but they're getting ready for basketball season now. We have student council. We have so many clubs. During the first quarter, we actually had a club day that we asked students to just go to a club to check it out. So the art club had so many kids that they were outside working. So, just to showcase everything students have available for them. So that happens on one of our flex days. We have flex days Wednesdays for academic support, but that was a club day. We'll have class meetings coming up. Any chance we get to bring the kids together. And MTSSB we're still working on. That's our behavior expectations, but really it's given us the opportunity to really bring SST back. What do our tiered supports look like? And that meeting happens every Wednesday. We had NWEA testing. The I applied day didn't have the numbers that we had hoped. I forgot what Ayla said the number was, but she was hoping for more. I think that it was advertised, but kids just are unsure yet and we have a lot of kids interested in going south, going further, like out of New England. Apparently it's cold and miserable. So they want to go like North Carolina or some of the conversations. So, those aren't on the I applied list that day, but they are working on their Common App and the things for that college bound path. We're just having fun. There's so much already planned for second quarter. Basketball, open gym. I didn't realize how physical wrestling was, and that was a lesson today as I walked into that, and then they had to weigh each other. So there's so many great things happening, not only with athletics, but in the classroom. We've closed the first quarter. I ran the low grade report every single week, and we tackled, to support kids. So I just thank Sophia so much for being here.
Does anyone have any questions for Tina about the high school?
Well, everybody's mentioned subs in your reports. Is there anything, that...
So I have 2 subs coming to you tonight.
Yeah.
I think it's
district?
Oh,
High school.
Wait.
I see how you're doing it. I see how you're doing it.
I think that it's tough. For some reason, people are intimidated by the high school stuff. Everybody wants to hang out with little kids. I think our kids are amazing and great. And, Wally was here this week, and he subbed for me for like 3 weeks when I didn't have a librarian. And, man, he ran a tight ship. He was in for Mr. Guillot. When, we have very few. Mrs. Hayden is another sub that the middle school has. And if, Buckwall gets to her first, and then I don't get her. So there's not a lot of subs, but they don't really, if the subs we do have, they don't want to come hang out with our high school kids that are so fun.
Well, it's at the elementary level too, right?
You have struggling as bad as subs, yeah.
Right.
I think that's your decision to look at, sub rates and things like that. But like, I just finally had a call to fill a full-time paraprofessional position today. I'm like, put your application in, meet with me. I think, subs is not consistent work for people, and they're looking for something a little more consistent. If we get interest, I meet with them and we put them through the process. That's important. I don't know if the rate's comparative to everybody else in the area. I like Frontline. Frontline works for our building, and that's the sub-call system. There was some concerns about that system, but it won't call people if you already signed up to be a sub somewhere. So, but also what's great about it is it notifies people way ahead of time if they want to take that position. So like if they know they're out, that's been good in some cases. When you're down a teacher, you can't fill that in. I'm able to potentially fill a long-term sub position. I have a teacher out on maternity leave. So I think every district is struggling with it. We take care of them when they're here. Wally will tell you that. Mrs. Hayden will do the same. If we have a sub, we take care of our subs. We are very kind to them. We make sure they're set up. We deal with any behavior concerns. We want to keep them.
Anything else? Any other questions for Tina? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. So it looks like we're now going to move into new business. And I do have one request. Second on the list here of new business is the nurse sub-pay approval. And Tim had mentioned that was something he was interested in being part of that conversation with. So I wondered if we could delay that particular item until maybe after the policies, and so that he might arrive to be part of that conversation. Is that amenable to everyone?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Sophia. Have a good night.
Thank you, have a good night.
All right, so starting with new business, Dorchester School Board candidate appointment. So Amanda, do you
So
want
we
to start
do
us off?
have Vicki Conkey here as requested by the board. I don't have her information here in the packet. You did have it before, but I believe the board wanted to talk with her, ask her a few questions. I believe there was something that you all wanted to meet Vicki. Here she is.
Yes. Great.
Hello.
Yeah, Vicki, do you want to introduce yourself to us?
Sure, I'm 42, and the reason I say that is I have two children, my biological, that have gone through the system, and they have one graduating this year and one graduating next year, and my empty nest now, trying to find me. But I've also adopted my two nieces, and they went through the system here. So, and back up with my own children, they have ADD, ADHD, so they give the school quite a run for their money, but I have to say, from a parent side, the school helps. You guys have been great from the point when Zachary did his little hit on somebody. Just the way everything is brought in as a family, and that really helps. But also, we don't have the most money on the planet. And again, them food baskets during the time when the children were in elementary school were so helpful. Yeah, they didn't like the peanut butter, or whatever, but it helped get us through for that week that we weren't able to plan for. We live, paycheck to paycheck. So with that all said, me now being the empty nester crying and I want to find a new niche. And I think now I can come to maybe help you support the school and support our students, and be able to be that family, come from that family of not necessarily saying you need help, but helping them even though. Mm-hmm. So that's me in a nutshell.
Does anyone have any questions for Vicki or anything?
I don't.
Is there anything that you have questions about, Vicki, for us, as
I
far
just-
as what it's like to be on the school?
Yes, I don't know really the board. I'm trying to read your guys' little signs on your desks there. But I'm a fast learner, so I think I'll catch on, maybe asking a lot of questions at this point. But that's about the only thing, so.
Candace is the newest member of the board, from those of us that are here. Do you have any tips for her or anything about kind of joining or what to pay attention to?
So I think for me it was going back and reading the minutes, and Hope actually gave me a great book that I was able to read and kind of learn a little bit more about the school board and some of the things they do. So I personally found as a new board member that they are very supportive and very eager to teach you how to do things and involve you in any kind of fun meeting. So my background is education, and being invited to join the education board right away. So I think the group is welcoming.
Wonderful.
And we knew to say that, so that's great. Yeah, so I mean, I think that as long as you're willing, having your voice representing Dorchester and being part of this board is something that I'd love to see happen. I think we have to do an official vote, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Would you like me to leave so you guys can vote? Okay.
No, I think it's all public,
Okay.
public record for sure. So yeah, so I entertain a motion. I guess it's for approval
That's
of
correct.
yeah, approval of
The Dorchester.
Vicki Conkey as the school board representative for Dorchester to fill, and this is to fill the existing open position until the next election.
Just for clarification, the term is only until March of '23?
Until the next election, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll move for approval, Vicki Conkey for Dorchester School Board Representative to fill the term until March of 2023.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? No abstentions. And the ayes have it. Welcome, Vicki.
Thank you very much.
See you tomorrow.
We, I'm sure that Amanda will connect you with the also the New Hampshire School Board Association.
Okay.
We're members of the School Board Association, and they have a number of trainings that are available. The new member training cycles through, but I think there are recordings
Correct.
of the past, because some of them have been webinars. One nice thing about COVID is that lots of these things have become webinars,
Sure.
and archived versions of those video conversations are available. So I would probably, even though you can't necessarily participate in one right away, there's probably a recording through New Hampshire School Board Association that you could watch to get some of those highlights and materials.
Okay.
And as always, let
That's
us know if
very
there's any
helpful.
questions.
I do a lot of them.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what I'm doing if I didn't. Still don't.
What am I on, like year 10 or something, and I still attend or watch recordings of some of their webinars just to try to stay up to date on things. So it's very helpful. So great. Well, thank you for volunteering. It's
Yes.
not necessarily a very glamorous job, but it is something that is really necessary. So
Okay.
thank you.
Wonderful. And may I say one more thing, and then I will step out of the little hole here. Back to the substitute thing. I had done the substitute for the high school pre-COVID, and I had an incident. And now, the staff is wonderful. They're very helpful and so forth. But as far as what the substitute is supposed to do, and what students are not supposed to go out in the hall without an adult or that type of thing, that was very challenging, because I let a child go that I was not aware of, did not have them privileges. So I think maybe a little bit more education for the sub, because for me, it made me kind of bow out to taking more opportunities, just because there's not very much information. And I had approached that with Miss Cookie, and unfortunately I don't know where that had gone. So it's hard without direction as to numbers or people or whomever to take care of that action.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I know that there's been discussions, or some group has had, like an info session or kind of little certificate kind of training to prepare you for both substitute teaching and being a para educator. And that's not something that we've hosted in district, but it is something that's out there and available. But that's those are really good points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next we have a couple of donations. Entertain a motion for the first of those donations, which
And
is
a motion for the donation from Friends of Mascoma for $4,999 for the CES playground. For approval.
I'll second.
thank you.
Sorry, I was trying to find it.
I know.
I can't find anything.
All the papers. There's so much of the policies, it's easy to get lost in the other ones. All right, so this is for the CES. It looks like the Friends of Mascoma already approved that and sent that over, so this is great. And it looks like this is for it's something we've already installed.
Yes, it's for the installation of there's a couple of new, well, it's a large piece of equipment.
Okay.
It's very nice, kids love it.
Great. Have any questions? All right, so we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of approving the donation from Friends of Mascoma for the $4,999 for the CES playground, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain. Okay, we accept their Friends of Mascoma donation with appreciation. Okay, next one for Mascoma Savings Bank.
So I'll make a motion to approve for the Mascoma Savings Bank donation of $1,000 for the high school musical department trip to Washington DC.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, so, yeah, looks like they had a successful application to the Mascoma Savings Bank Foundation, and that will help their students with their fundraising efforts. Any other questions or concerns about this? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of approving the donation from Mascoma Savings Bank for $1,000 for the high school music trip to Washington DC, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And abstain. And the ayes have it. Thank you, Mascoma Savings Bank, for the donation. All right, now we've got a number of policies, several of which are for second reading and a couple for first reading. So I'd entertain a motion to take those in specific groups.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for policy EBB, School Safety Program, second reading. Policy EBBD, Indoor Air Quality and Water Quality, second reading. EHAB, Data Governance and Security, second reading. EHB, Data Records Retention and Destruction, second reading. And policy DFA, Investment, second reading. Policy DFGA, Crowdfunding, second reading.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. Was there anything else other than any minor changes in wording or anything like that?
No, we do still need to create a form for DFGA, the crowdfunding thing, so that does need to be done, but that is a form that will just be added on. We'll share that with you when it's completed. The only changes to these for second reading were that in EBB, we did remove the limit, removed the sentence that set the limit on the costs, just so that we could go ahead and move forward with any repairs to any water services that we might have without waiting for board approval for that.
Okay, great.
I spoke to Will today. I'm sorry, I had to do this before the second reading about DFA
Oh, okay.
at NHSBA.
Oh,
Yeah.
And he made some suggestions for that one.
Oh, okay.
We talked a bit about, section 3, page 2, internal controls. I so the last sentence, where it says the investment of funds will be left to the discretion of, I had designated finance committee. That is, he's like, no, that is your committee, your school committee. The intention when they wrote that was that in other words, he's like, you should, if you have the name of it, you should put it in there. It should say finance and facilities committee. So that when they wrote that, that was their intention.
Okay.
So basically, yeah. So, which means that committee has to make sure that that's on the agenda, X amount, whenever. And then he also said the last sentence, the board will, it said instead of periodically, it should say annually. And you do bring that to us every year, but it should say annually. And he suggested that we discuss with the auditor about section 3. That we have the auditor come to speak to us, or, how that plays out. So, yeah, that's.
So I would suggest that then the board then move this DFA to finance and facilities, and then the auditor could go and speak to finance and facilities with more information on it.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's going back for changes per recommendation.
I also spoke to him about EHAP. I spoke to him about 3 of them. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Yeah, before we
You wanna
change, before we change the original motion, before we modify the original or amend the original motion, we'll go ahead and I think with all your comments, that way we can just modify it once.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay. EHAB, data governance and security. The issue I had with it was the section F, last sentence, first paragraph. If you go to district will disclose confidential information only to authorized district contractors or agents who need access to the information to provide services to the district and who agree. So we talked about the fact that whether we needed the word contractually in there. He said it's a given with a lot of what the ISO does at the state level, that obviously they're reviewing the contracts. But this is not something that is a handshake thing. So if you guys agree to add, he didn't feel too strong about, he felt that the ISO was all done contractually at the state level anyways. Who agree not to disclose the information, if you just add the word contractually, because it's all contractual anyways, that would cover it. Or not.
So Hope, just push, point me out your
Last
first
sentence,
first paragraph.
page 3, F, last sentence in the first paragraph.
Okay.
Who need to access the information to provide services to the district, who could contractually agree not to disclose information. Because you're not going to make a handshake deal
Contractually, yeah.
with this. There's no handshake deal. We don't do that. And he basically, it's like it's sort of a given in that they didn't put that because they're like, they already know that they already do it all contractually anyways. But anyways. Sorry, that was a long conversation, longer than I thought. So, and then the other one's a new one, so it's good.
Okay, well, wait on the comments on the new one, so when we take that one up. But are there any concerns with the edits that Hope is suggesting? Or do we want to pull out both of these and send, just DFA to finance and facilities. We can, I think, still approve EHAB for second reading with just the addition of that one word. So it sounds like there's maybe just one modification to the motion that would be needed, which would be to pull DFA out of the motion for approval for second reading.
I thought it was DFGA. It's
No,
going back to
DFA, and Amanda wanted to, next we're gonna add a DFGAR, which
Yes.
that is not there yet, right?
Right, but we can approve the policy without
Without
having
the
the
R,
form.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So DFA is going back to finance and facilities for recommendation,
Correct.
correct? Okay, so I will amend my motion to drop the DFA. And the rest remain.
Okay, for the second? All right, so there's no other comments on this batch. Then we'll go ahead and vote on these. So, all in favor of approving and for second reading with edits as discussed for policy EBB, school safety program, EBBD, indoor air quality and water quality, EHAB, data governance and security, EHB, data records retention and destruction, and DFGA, crowdfunding. Approved by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed with an A.
Anybody missed him?
I'm like,
Yeah.
does not roll off the tongue. Any abstentions?
Really good.
Okay. Yeah, right, that passes. Big old mouthful of alphabet soup, here we go. And then we don't, do we need a specific motion to send DFA to finance facility?
I would, just
Okay.
because it's
In-
listed for a second
Okay.
reading.
Great. So,
So I'll make a motion to send DFA back to finance and facilities for a recommendation of discussion. I guess it's a recommendation discussion. Right.
thank you, Candace. Any additional conversation about that? All right, so we're ready to vote. All in favor of sending policy DFA investment back to finance and facility for additional conversation and recommendation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And abstain. All right, finance facilities will get DFA one more time. Take a look. All right, now we've got 3 more that could be bundled together for first reading.
I'll make a motion for first reading policy IMBA, distance education, policy JJJ, access to public school programs by non-public charter school and home educated pupils, and policy JLDBB, suicide prevention and response.
Oh, you know what? I think there's one more on the other side.
It doesn't say first reading, though, it says.
Oh, it says discussion. Okay, yep, thank you.
So we'll do
Yep.
that a little separately there.
Perfect.
Okay.
And we have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. So what if we could start off discussion with Amanda, if you have any guidance for us, and then Hope for the feedback you had about one of these policies.
Sure, if you start with IMVA, you'll notice what we have in here, adding to this policy for distance education would be the ability to use the blizzard bag. That's the old term for it,
Yeah.
but it would allow that. Of course, I would want this to be a discussion with our public. I do know there are some very strong feelings around snow days in this community, and people do enjoy those. But I think it would also be beneficial for us to have that option, especially if we approach 5, 6, or 7 snow days in a year. I am not opposed to giving a snow day here or there to kids, 2 or 3, 4 a year, okay. But as you start to do more than that, it really starts to encroach on the end of June. So I do believe that it would be beneficial for us to have the ability to do it. For the record, I'm not saying that we would do it every single time. There would be parameters around it. It would come after certain limits. This would not be a decision that we would take lightly and without input. So this is just putting this policy on the books for now. I don't intend to use it without parameters in place.
And then was there anything related to JJJ or JLD?
What, you want me to just keep going?
Yeah, might as
Sure.
well.
JJJ is a policy that we currently do not have. Prior to the updates from the New Hampshire School Board Association, this was just recommended. It is now required by law. So that is why you are seeing it. And really, we just looked at the, putting in place what the School Board Association recommended.
That's the one I spoke to.
Did Will Phillips have input on that one?
My question to him was, when it starts off, all pupils residing in the Mascoma Valley Regional School District. I'm like, anybody? And so he's like, that word is legally the word they do use in the RSA 19312. But he also said you could simply add the word all pupils legally residing in. In that sense, can Cardigan Mountain kids come? Anybody residing in, so. But he said if you simply add the word or the RSA, but you can go either way. So. That was it.
So I have a question.
Yes.
On distance education, in the first paragraph, number 2, it says, as an option for a parent, guardian, or adult student making requests for distant education online courses. I assume we have a process and a procedure for that request.
Yes.
Should we reference that
We can.
in the policy? Because I think it's more than just making a request.
I'm trying to think, because I just had a conversation with VLAX today about an online course. And so, for example, I know that when when a student wants to request an online course, the parent or guardian, unless the student is 18 or over and can put themselves in as the approver, the parent or guardian has to, with a separate email address, has to approve those online classes. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So how do you handle the request for an adult student? We don't have any specific rules for that, right?
Right, unless that means
Well, through-
someone that's 18.
Through VLAS, yeah, an adult student, in order for students to receive credit for distance learning, they would need to follow the ELO process that we have here.
Okay.
So through guidance, through that, and I will find out exactly what they call that process that we have. And that's for the high school. At the middle school, we may have a student or two taking an online course, I don't know. But sometimes it is a good option for our students to be able to take that rather than attend an in-person class, or maybe it's something that we just don't offer. But we would give credit through the Extended Learning Opportunity Program that we do have.
Any other conversation, we'll take these one at a time, about IMBA, distance education?
I thought when I read it more as the distance, like a permanent distance education arrangement. A homeschool, or is this just for classes?
This is for coursework, so these would be not students that were homeschooled students.
Okay.
These would be still students that were enrolled here with the district. We do have a fair amount of students that are homeschooled using distance learning through VLAX or something like that.
And this is really, the update is really to that section A around inclement weather. correct?
Yes.
All right, we'll take the next one. JJJ, access to public school programs by non-public charter school and home educated pupils. Do we use pupils in any of our other policy
We can
titles
change
or
that to
language?
students.
Yeah.
Pupils feels, we don't.
Just for consistency, I think we use, I don't know, I think we use students, but
I feel like we use students.
yeah. Any other questions or initial reactions to this? It would be new for us, as I just said, but now required. We do currently have students that are in these categories, charter school, home educated, that do participate.
Absolutely.
Yep. So it is already something that's going on. So the process isn't necessarily new, but this particular policy is.
Correct.
One of the questions I had, if in section A, last paragraph, if a student or the parent guardian believes that they have not been given equal opportunity for participation in district programs, oh wait, not that one, sorry. One above it. In the event that the course program has reached capacity, selection between enrolled students and non-enrolled students must be made by using the same criteria. And then it says, if applying such is over-enrolled, the determination should be made randomly. That seems like a weird word to me. I was thinking lottery by lottery, or how would you do it? Randomly seems like, I don't know, is that the right
Haphazard.
word? Yeah, haphazard, that's a good, yeah. How would you, is there a better word there? Or is it random? Buy from a hat, should we say?
I do believe that means from a
From a
hat.
hat, I know. All right, I just thought by lottery, is that a hat? Or is that-
Well, it can say whatever you would
No,
like
no,
it to say,
I
but
no.
I mean, lottery is
If
supposed
you
to
guys
be
are all good with
random,
not
and
by a
Random.
hat.
we could say by. I probably prefer by lottery as opposed to pulling out of a hat, but.
I mean, you can change it to, would be determined by the last person to have enrolled in the class, like a timeline type of deal. Or we can say random by lottery.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I mean, is this is required by law. So they're saying that you can't prioritize the enrolled student over the unenrolled
That is
student.
correct.
Is what I'm saying,
Mhm.
which,
Yeah.
not saying crazy
So
about,
how do you
but,
back that up? How do you prove
Right.
it? It was done the
you
way
know,
they want.
randomly seems like the wrong word there, if that's what their intention is. So,
I'd say by lottery. I think that
yeah.
people know what that means. It basically means something very similar to
Yeah.
random, which is it sounds like
They'll have to
the
get the-
intent was to not basically not give priority to the enrolled student, which
Right, have to get the ball thing out,
which seems crazy, but whatever.
the hamster wheel with the balls.
Yeah. In that next sentence, the last paragraph of section A, there's an asterisk beside board policy.
You've already highlighted it, it's
All right,
on its way
perfect.
out.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else for policy JJJ? Okay. And then the last of this group is JLDDB, suicide prevention and response. Looks like it's one that we already had, but it's a couple years old now.
Well, and it's pretty much identical. I did sort of give it a glance line by line. And it's pretty identical until you get to section E, the student identification card. So that was a new piece of legislation that was added. It states that if you provide student identification cards, they must have the suicide prevention number printed on the back.
Okay. And this is at, can we give ID cards to other schools in addition to the high school? We give them at the middle school?
I believe at the middle school, definitely not at the elementary schools.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any questions related to JLDBB? Okay. All right, so we don't have any more comments on these three particular policies for first reading. I'm ready to vote on them. All right, all in favor of approving policy IMBA, distance education, policy JJJ, access to public school programs by non-public charter school and home educated pupils, and policy JLDBP, suicide prevention and response, all for first reading. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And oppose and abstain. All right, the ayes have it. I've got some notes for Amanda to go back with, and we'll see these policies again. All right, final policy on this list before we talk about sub-K, the nurses, is BEDH, public comment and participation at board meetings, discussion. I cannot remember what the discussion is about. Anyone else?
Sure, so you do have the sample policy, BEDH, from the School Board Association. There's some updates in there, especially around the new RSA that requires you to provide no less than 30 minutes for public comment sessions. You know, other school boards, I feel like you all have never denied public comment to anyone. We've gone for quite some time, if I think back to block scheduling with public comment. So I do know that that is not the practice of all school boards. You've also allowed people to make public comment on items that are not in the agenda. Other school boards have not allowed that to happen. So there are a few things there. So you'll see the really, this was one that I wanted, you all needed to really discuss before, you know, you moved forward with it. It does need an update. So you do have the current policy as it stands for us, and then you have the sample policy and all the footnotes and notes that go along with it from the New Hampshire School Board Association. But those were the major changes. It's really about the way that public comment is set up and how it you know, is provided to the public and not limited.
So I have a silly question. Page 2, and under B, the opportunity for public comment, and number 3, where it starts to define the 30 minutes and how the board will handle it. And it says, if speakers do not fill the minimum 30-minute public comment, the board will move to table the remainder of the time until the end of the meeting, or later in the meeting for boards who move into non-public session directly after the meeting, immediately before the scheduled non-public. Oops, it goes up here, session. If insufficient speakers remain to fill the 30 minutes, the board will close the public comment. Close the public comment when? Before you go into non-public?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. So there is no part of the legislation that says that you must sit here for 30 minutes and wait for somebody to talk.
Right.
So it just means that we have to offer that. And like I said, you guys also have public comment at the beginning of the meeting. You have public comment at the end. If we do a presentation, we've always put public comment after that presentation, so that, you know, the public is able to, you know, give an opinion. We found that out, I think. That was beneficial, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
to allow for that public comment piece right away.
So essentially, this, with our old one, we would basically have to provide a maximum of 30 minutes instead of 15. I mean, how would we do this? Do we just adopt NHSBA or?
One of the questions I have is, you know, we have, I don't believe all boards, as we just discussed, have public comment available 2 times during the meeting agenda. So, yeah, I don't know if we would need to, if we need to change that, because if it's 15 minutes at each,
That meets the requirements.
I mean, that would be that'd be 30 total. I mean,
Yeah,
but
but we need to state that we will be having it at the end.
true. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're also able, if you wanted to put a limit on it, you could put a limit on here of 45 minutes or an hour. I've never seen you all do that, so that would be at your discretion.
Yeah, and it says in the special note right at the top that you can amend your language to specify that you're gonna break it into 2 meetings.
Yeah.
Is there, would it be beneficial to send this to one of our committees to further kind of work with or look at, or if there's anything that needs to be updated to bring back?
You do, that would be fine, but there are also, you know, numbers 5, 6, and 7 are all optional pieces that you might want to have some input on. You know, there was quite a bit of ability for boards to tailor this to what they would like more specifically.
Yeah.
So rather than have Martha kind of draft something out, I wanted to wait and see.
Yeah.
Some of it, yes, like number 3, you will have to provide a minimum of 30 minutes, and you could end the sentence there, right? Like, that would be
And then
fine to do.
do it, just so as long as you do that, you're fine.
Yeah, you don't have to put a maximum on, that's just your ability to do that. Like I said, I've never seen you, we talked quite a bit about block scheduling, multiple meetings.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and I think all that discussion is important
Yeah.
for people to be able to talk about.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you can always move you start with open your 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, and then you officially close it, you know, you table it and move it to the end of the meeting and officially close it is something that would also be beneficial.
Yeah.
But we could send this to whichever one of your subcommittees would like it.
I mean, so
Like to
you're
do that.
basically saying the option 6 is putting in our board policy is about the online accessibility, is adding, that's option 6. And then, what is option 7 goes over written comments, which we don't have?
We have had.
We have in the past, like on big issues, you know, like block scheduling or something, someone might email Amanda and say, please read this at the board meeting, or email one of us.
Yeah, but we never had that, piece.
I mean,
Piece in the policy. Do we?
Yeah, I don't know if it's, I don't know.
They make some communications.
Yeah, because I know definitely during the renovation process, we had people that submitted comments because we had lots of people. And the other thing is, or the number 6 optional, this does say that, although, well, this is optional, although the board will allow public comment remotely. So we have meetings viewable online, but not, you can't participate online.
Right, so ours is, or what we're doing is different than.
It would come at quite a cost if you all wanted to put number 6 back in, right? That was
As
money
written.
that I
As
would,
written, yeah.
I don't see where the attendance in the past merits that
Yeah,
cost.
it was quite expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it for that reason.
Yeah.
We could say something like, we will broadcast our meetings online.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep it
Right.
simple.
And especially if we did want to put in something about accepting written comments, that allows you know, that opportunity, if someone can't be in person to share their feedback about something or share their concerns about something, you know, we could direct it to.
You could,
Yes.
Sorry.
it's all right.
Yeah,
Yes,
Tim's
please.
Trust me all way.
Tim
It's all right.
Hernandez's email
Yeah.
for them to
So,
bring forward.
By all means. So yeah, do you want to send this to, I think this needs a little work. I think it would benefit from some workshopping to make it exactly how we like it. Because that's what we did with our previous one. It came from a long time of a lot of,
Yeah,
it took a while to get to that, you know?
yeah.
Do you think communications is a good place for it?
Yeah, we don't get stuck with a lot of policies,
don't,
so we
so
probably should.
We probably should. All right, so yeah, let's send that to
Take
communications.
some.
Okay.
And now that Tim is back, I'm
Did you
gonna,
get back through everything?
let me yield. No,
Oh,
we,
just-
almost. We did table the discussion
Thank you.
around nurse sub-pay.
Yep.
And that is the last of the new business items.
Okay.
We've got through all the policies.
Oh, wow, you
and
guys are great.
such, so,
Awesome.
yep, so
All right.
we just have the
Nurse
sub-pay.
sub-pay. All right, so this is, so we'll go back.
Oh,
to-
sorry.
Oh,
Should we vote to send this to
oh, yeah.
communications or?
No, it's only a discussion.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah, we didn't have any tables, any motions on
Okay, great.
that. All right. All right, so if that's all we have left is the nurse sub-pay. So we have a discussion about nurse sub-pay, and then I'm going to piggyback onto that with another discussion about subs, but we'll take it in two sections here. Nurse sub-pay, in your packet, there should be a little, let me pull this up here, some information on nurse substitute pay. And so you can read the letter from the woman who is our substitute nurse now. She does a wonderful job and has been for doing it for quite some time. She has brought up the rate of pay, which is legitimate, because when you look at what other districts pay for substitute nurses, there's a big difference, and we're paying at the same rate as substitutes, regular substitutes. So I'll open it for discussion.
Is there a differentiation, or do we hire nurse subs that are not RNs? So for example, LPNs or others, it's just RNs that we look at. for
Correct.
subs. Okay.
We have to hold that valid credential.
Okay,
Oh, and I should say that in finance facilities, when we reviewed this, we came out at the recommendation of 175.
okay, yeah, which seems to be pretty much in
Yeah.
line or competitive with.
I mean, this is a profession, this is a very highly skilled professional that you have to have.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I would make a motion that we increase the nurse sub rate to the 175 as recommended.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? And how many, Amanda, do you know roughly how many days a year she needs a nurse sub? Like she needs subs throughout the district?
That's pretty significant. I would say that on average, 1 a week, we
Okay.
would have a nurse.
One
nurse
a week,
out
though. Yeah, all right.
Once a week.
Okay, that's not too bad. All right. Any further discussion? All right then. All those in favor of raising a substitute nurse pay to 175 a day per diem, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions. All right. And then the other thing is that are you Ms. Gooch? Suzanne Gooch?
I am.
Okay. Suzanne Gooch is here. She wrote to me. She's applied to be a substitute teacher here in our district, and brought to my attention that for background checks on substitutes, we are requiring them to pay for the check. And that's not an insignificant cost. It's almost $50. Now I know we've discussed this before in the past about volunteers and things like that, and we do cover we cover costs for volunteers because it's a volunteer position. But in talking it out, I think we can make a way so that we can cover the cost of the substitute background checks, and at the same time kind of take the pressure off of our volunteers. And one of it is that we have a lot of Dartmouth students that volunteer with us. And we could look into asking Dartmouth to help offset the cost of their background checks. Because we're paying for the background checks of these Dartmouth students who might come in for 1 day.
Right.
And so that's a little Dutch. And I think we can probably balance that out. Between those two factors in the budget, I think it would be a wash or even less. I'm not sure. But that's my thoughts on that.
And we can't even if their background, we can't accept a background check from Dartmouth College, for example. They have to be our background checks.
Right. So that's, I mean, it did bring up to me a point, when we're trying to hire people to be subs, trying to remove barriers of help having them, because we want them to be a sub. We want people.
I had to give my daughter $50.
Exactly, all right, yeah. And it's,
You're a good mother.
and it's, I think of other jobs that, my dad told me, he's like, if a job makes you pay for something up front.
Yes.
Just
It's
something.
not the
I know it's a
career,
background
right?
check, it's not quite the
Yeah.
same, but it's still a little something, and
It's still an obstacle.
it's still an obstacle.
Yeah, I don't know with Amanda, is it important to engage their level of interest, or, can you tell? Like, I knew my daughter she was obviously gonna do it,
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that most of our subs come in really interested in doing it, and then often turn into paraprofessionals for us.
Okay, well, then that's an investment.
It's very good, and then we do have some people that come in after one time and find that they don't want to do it. Right? So sometimes
Sounds glamorous
people
and stuff, but
think it sounds glamorous,
Yeah.
and they just might hit an assignment that doesn't work for them.
Can they shadow somebody instead of?
I still need to fingerprint them
Yep.
before I let them in school.
Yeah.
Is that the
Hold on.
only classification of employees that we ask for them to pay for the?
No, the only class of employees that we ask not to pay are volunteers.
So everybody else, the school pays for? I think it's a bit discriminatory.
Oh, I'm sorry, everybody else, only volunteers, the school district pays for. Everyone else pays for their own.
Oh, okay.
So,
So like teachers and stuff like that.
teachers,
But they've already been hired at that point.
superintendents, all of us pay.
But they've already been hired at that point as a teacher. Like they'll be hired contingent on a background check, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay.
It is a barrier, I mean, when you're subbing, $50 is $50,
Yeah.
it's.
And at our rate, that's half a day's pay.
Exactly.
That was the other
It
side of
is.
that too. I was gonna say, maybe we can look and see what
More than
other
half a day's
districts are
pay.
paying for sub rates. And, because I know we raised it from 90 to 100 a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and I wonder if that's even, I don't know that that's competitive.
But that's assuming you're working 8 hours,
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
it's usually more like 60.
yeah.
And if you're working as a para sub, you get paid an hourly and not the it's not
Right.
$100.
No,
It's
it's
different.
It is not, yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I'm all for compensating.
okay, all right. So I'll turn a motion on that then,
Okay.
if you want to.
Well, first of all, explain to me
Yes.
who's actually compensating for this, because you mentioned Dartmouth.
Oh, yes, so.
I think that's a
They're
different.
two different things. So I was just
Okay.
thinking the cost of background checks. And so we pay for volunteers right now, and a significant number of them are Dartmouth students. And we certainly are within our arrangements with Dartmouth to say, can you kick some money to us to cover this cost?
Okay, and that's a specific group,
Yeah.
Dartmouth students.
Yeah, a lot of them do like the old A.
It's not overall that we're talking about there.
No, they wouldn't cover all of our volunteers, no, just their volunteers, like whatever their cost is, like, and maybe it means like they, on average, they figure like, oh, you know what, $2,000 will cover it for the year. They'll make a guess and say, okay, we have about, 40 volunteers or whatever, I don't know, so,
Okay.
that would be a way to do it.
That being said, what would the estimate be for the other volunteers that we're talking about? How many do we have? How many days do they work?
You mean subs? Because we already
Yeah,
cover the volunteers.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean how many days does subs work?
Well, do we have a high incident of people not continuing to repeat, come back and sub? Do they drop out?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You're trying to basically see the return on the investment for us in
In other
paying
words,
for
do
that.
we have 100 applicants that drop out and 3 stay?
That'd be nice. If I could get 100 people to come once, $50 each.
So, and maybe that's a good return on money if you get some to turn into paras.
Yeah.
Positive, yeah.
I mean, we could try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, it does.
From the financial reimbursement standpoint, if you did something contractually where you do your background, you're paying the $50, but once you have finished X amount of shifts for the school, you get it back. So that way, if you have someone who only does one, that really didn't, there was no ROI there. But if you say, you know, if you do 5 shifts, or, you know, you pick up X amount that seems equivocal to it, we would then reimburse for that cost. And maybe if that initially was like but then they find out, oh, if I do, you know, 5 shifts for Miss Isabel, I'm gonna get that 50 back. That's, you know, something to look at too, as far as hopefully drawing them into the school as well, to like want to keep something up.
Is that complicated to do?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think there might be some other schools that currently have that as a practice. We did not do any research on this, so we don't know, but Rob can look into that and see what it might look like that way. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that we could do to make it more, enticing for people to
We
come
just
and
heard it tonight, every single, you know.
Like if we had 100 people come once, that'd be great.
No, it's a big issue, and it's leading to teacher burnout.
Yeah. So maybe as part of the, I don't know if it needs to go to finance facility first, or if it can just come to a board meeting. Either, I don't know if we'll end up, I didn't see on this agenda whether or not we are going to talk about the meeting before Thanksgiving and whether or not that's necessary. But if we want to have if we want to have it as an agenda item at a future meeting, either here at the full board or for finance facility to take a look at it first, around both the issue of how to how to structure basically a reimbursement for the subs, and also maybe during, if research is involved in that, just checking around to see how our sub rates compare.
Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, just the ones they're nearby, similar to kind of what was done with.
Yeah, we're somebody who
So
works.
we need to be clear with the sub rates. I mean, to me, the $100 is a little bit deceptive. You know, because you think you're gonna get $100 and you don't.
Yeah,
You know,
taxes.
Pre-tax, yeah.
And, you know, sometimes it's the little things that are just, you know, create a climate where you don't wanna work there.
Yeah.
You know, it can be something as little as that, you know,
Yeah.
or, you know, anyways, and.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, when you're talking, being, you know, like, okay, you don't wanna pay somebody $3 more. It just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Well, the great news is policy GCG is the substitute professional staff employment. So we could send GCG wherever you would like it to go for review. It talks about the $100 a day, prorated according to the number of hours the person would work. The rate of pay for custodial substitutes is $12 an hour. That should probably be increased. The rate of pay for paraeducators substitutes shall be $12 an hour. That should probably be increased.
Yeah, we have to call that.
And then it talks about the long-term substitute threshold. So as you're a substitute, you would need to complete 20 days, and then on the 21st day, you could move to the per diem rate of a bachelor's step 1. But I do think, since that's a policy, we should probably add the nurse pay scale to that too.
Yeah, it should be in there too.
Yeah.
So we'll add that in. We'll make some amendments to that.
That sounds good.
We could do that at our first finance facilities meeting in December, and then try to get it back here for the very next school board meeting, I think.
Sure.
It shouldn't be too hard of a turnaround on that.
Could we also include Candace's
Yes.
suggestion in
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
And
We'll
because
do some
compare to
research
the
on
other
that.
schools
Absolutely.
And add that in on that policy?
Yep.
That
Absolutely.
sounds good.
All right.
Yes, yeah.
Suzanne, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I
I
hope-
actually have some more I'd like to.
I'm sorry?
I have a few other things I'd like to share. that
Oh,
I
okay.
have to
Well,
wait for.
yeah, well, I don't think we have much more, and then we'll open up public comment
Yeah.
again, if that works. Yeah,
Perfect.
all right. Cool, is there anything else on the agenda that we didn't get to? Or is that literally it? I was like, they got all the quarterly reports, they're gonna take their time, you're gonna whip right through
We
it.
did.
Very nice, very
I
nice.
mean, the only The only other thing that I didn't think to add into new business first is the question about the meeting on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, whether or not that is, that we anticipate that there's business for that, knowing that there's no school on Wednesday, just want to be cognizant of that time.
Yeah.
I know I won't be in town for
Okay.
that.
All right. I will be. You will be?
I will be.
You be in town?
Flying out Thanksgiving Day.
You're heading out Thanksgiving Day? All right. You'll be in, are you be in town? Okay. Do you want to just tentatively schedule it, and then if we have really nothing, and then I'll talk to Amanda, we can see about
We
picking
may
it up.
have some hiring, we may not, I'm not sure.
We can keep it super short.
It might be a very short meeting.
Yeah, we can do that, if people are okay with that, just to keep stuff moving.
Yep.
And maybe if you have family or house already, you want to get out of the house, I don't know. All right, cool. Well, thank you for doing this all here. All right, then we'll open for public comment. Suzanne, yeah, thank you.
I didn't take long.
So thank you for that. One thing I wanted to suggest or share as another barrier that I've experienced is in the process of applying. I did my interview, which I thought went well, but then it had to go to the school board, so that had to wait for a meeting. So that kind of stalls the process, in my opinion. And I feel like you hire the principals and the superintendent to oversee the buildings, and the staff are part of that. So I feel like if people who are interested in subbing like myself, if they didn't have to wait for the school board to approve them, of whom I never talked to any of you, that would speed up the process of getting substitutes in. So that's just a recommendation. Not that I think you're not doing a great job, but I think that you could get substitutes in quicker if the superintendent or wherever you go for your interview, they can say yay or nay and move the paperwork along. So that was one suggestion. The other suggestion, I can answer a few of your questions actually about what other Upper Valley schools offer. So this is the only district that charges that background check to interested parties. One district, they pay it and there's nothing said. Two other districts do require a few days of work, and then you're reimbursed, which I think is totally fair.
Can I just ask you, do you know what those districts are so Rob can look it up?
Lebanon
Thank
and Hanover.
Thank you.
But I didn't find that on their website, so you might have to call,
Rob will have to
because I called. Another thing that I experienced, which I thought was nice, is one school says this is the substitute pay no matter which position you're coming in for. So it's $100 a day if you're a para or a teacher, and it's half that if you come in for half a day. And that might simplify it for you. I thought, well, that's nice. They're not like penny pinching for, you know, and I also learned that if you sign up to sub, that you might sign up for a teacher position, but you might be knocked down to a paraprofessional because their full-time staff moves up because they get more pay. So I was like, oh, this is all very interesting. But with that all being said, I really want to substitute in this district. Not the high school.
It's okay.
Not the high school, but I am very interested in the elementary school. And I want to start that soon.
Yeah.
If
Did we approve you already? I'm sorry, I'm
you
jumping
did
in.
approve me, and I
Okay.
haven't filled out the paperwork because paying for a background check is a deal breaker for me. So I'm willing to sign something that says I'll work
Sure.
3 to 5 days if you want to get me in before January.
Rob will get you in. Thank you.
That's up to you.
Make it
You can
work.
let me know. I
Make it
haven't
work.
filled out that paperwork yet because, and actually I didn't get all the paperwork either, but I can reach out to that person. So
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank you
for
so much,
listening
guys.
to me.
Bringing us to our
Thank you. I
attention.
mean, this is a really important topic.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We can't be everywhere all the time, so we rely on stuff like this for people to bring it up to us. So thank
All
you.
right, thank you for listening.
All right. Any other public comment? Anything else? No? Okay. All right.
No, that's Vicky Conkey, your new school board
Oh,
member.
really?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
She's
welcome.
not public, don't ask her.
Fine, welcome. All right. Thank you.
But I did put in on the substitute as well.
Oh, good.
About
Okay.
my input, my experience. so.
Okay. Good. Well, welcome. Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm glad. Look at that. You got
Yeah, we're
you
just
even
trucking.
put in a new board member when I didn't realize it. You're so efficient. You don't need me. Yeah, without me and Brewster here, look how fast the meeting goes.
We ladies get things done.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere though. You
I know,
stay
right?
wherever you are.
I know. Any-
Oh, except reading the policy.
Policy.
I know.
That was horrendous.
All the letters. Yeah.
Well, for public comment, I want to say that I think our soccer team did really great, and I'm super proud. I went down to the game and watched them, and I just want to say again that how proud we are of them and all of our student athletes for really making us proud here at Mascoma and putting on a good face and being good sports. I saw a lot of good sportsmanship across multiple types of games this year, and it's just really great to see. So, awesome job, kids. Thank you very much. And congrats to the IRS boys cross country team, state champs. Yeah. Get that on the slide. All right. Any other public comment from anybody? Okay, cool.
You wanna,
We have non-public?
nomination
have
first?
nominations, though.
Nomination.
I make a motion that we approve or accept the nominations and staff resignations as presented.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of accepting nominations and resignations as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions. All right. That's it there. And we do have non-public, correct?
For the purposes of hiring.
For the purposes of other hiring. Okay, great. Your motion.
Make a motion to go into non-public.
Second.
All right. Tim, yes. Danielle?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Pope?
Yes.
Candace?
Yep.
All right. We are in non-public, and we will not come back. So thank you, YouTube.